Here on France 24 with our Stephen Carroll. Stephen, it's been a rough morning on the Asian markets. How have things opened here in Europe?
A fairly flat start to the trading week here in Europe. All of the main indices touching just slightly into the red. Not massively optimistic start to the week. Over in London, shares in the British oil and gas company BG Group are down around 10% after they warned about reduced production due to unrest in Egypt. But it is certainly a better picture in Europe than it was in Asia. Renewed fears there over China's liquidity crisis and worries about their future growth sent all of the Asian markets pretty spiralling into the red, as you can see there. New figures from Japan showing that their commercial deficit hit a record high in 2013. That's the value of their imports over the value of their exports. That sent Japan's Nikkei down 2.5% in trading.
There's a lot running on the new unemployment figures that are due out today here in France.
Yeah, President Hollande had made this promise that he would reverse the trend of rising unemployment by the end of 2013. And later today, we'll find out if he's managed it. Figures due out from the Labour Ministry will show how many people were out of work in December. It had hit a record high of almost 3.3 million back in September. It's fallen back slightly since, but these December figures will give us the final answer as to whether or not President Hollande has achieved that goal.
All right, Europe's banks are starting to get stressed about upcoming reviews of their finances by the European Central Bank.
Yeah, how stressed are our banks? That was the big topic of debate at the World Economic Forum in Davos. European Central Bank is carrying out a review of 130 of the Eurozone's banks before it takes over as the banking supervisor in November. Previous stress tests had been accused of not being credible because too many of the banks passed them. But speaking at a special France 24 debate in Davos, the head of the Eurogroup, Jeroen Dijsselbloem, said it could be a good thing if some of the banks fail the test.
I rather hope that it's going to unveil some unpleasantness, because that would give me a good feeling that it's been done properly. And I think this is key. We're not doing this to cover up and at the end of the day say, oh, everything's fine now. We're doing this to find out what problems remain and then to deal with them.
Jeroen Dijsselbloem will convene a meeting of the Eurozone's finance ministers in Brussels later. They'll be talking about Greece and Portugal and their bailout programmes. This as Greece awaits the return of the Troika, the inspectors from the international lenders, to Athens this week. They'll be investigating the requirements for the next instalment of their loans. But they're not popular visitors, and now the European Parliament is asking if they're doing how they do their job and whether they're doing it properly. Siobhan Stilk has the story.
This is the welcome the Troika got in Greece. Its drastic remedy was a bitter pill to swallow for the Greek people. But after years of hardship, the Prime Minister says the country's head is above water, just as austerity has reached its limit.
You cannot negotiate anymore on issues that have to do with more taxes or less pensions, because this level is the minimum acceptable level that allows for social cohesion.
The Troika guided Greece's two bailouts totalling 240 billion euros. Made up of officials from the International Monetary Fund, European Central Bank and European Commission, it was an ad hoc solution to an urgent problem.
The Troika was put in place because of a lack of the proper instruments. We didn't have the tools at the beginning of the crisis. It's not ideal, the Troika, but it worked out. The Troika's problem is not the quality of its instruments, but its democratic legitimacy. It doesn't have that.
Former European Central Bank Chief Jean-Claude Trichet believes there was no other choice in the face of a country whose spending was out of control.
If it wasn't for the Troika, if it wasn't for European and international aid, the recession would have been much more dramatic. And so would the problems faced by the Greek people. There's no doubt about that.
Critics have complained the Troika isn't supervised, but the European Parliament is now studying its activities. A report on those findings is to be published in the coming weeks.
A quick look now at some of the day's other companies' news for you. And the American mobile operator AT&T says it won't be making a takeover offer for Vodafone. A possible approach had been mooted after the British firm sold its stake in Verizon. AT&T said there would be a huge opportunity to invest in mobile broadband in Europe, which had sparked the speculation that they would buy Vodafone. And Google has bought the British tech startup DeepMind in what's thought to be its biggest acquisition in Europe to date. The internet giant is thought to have paid upwards of $400 million for the firm, which specialises in artificial intelligence technology. Sources told the Financial Times that Google moved quickly to buy the company before Facebook.
All right, and just to wrap up, the French National Train Service is coming back with a legendary service.
Yes, the last Orient Express train travelled from Strasbourg to Vienna just over 4 years ago. In fact, it had suffered from competition from high-speed rail lines and also from cheap flights. But the French National Train Company, which owns the brand, is set to unveil a new company that will manage it this week. It's going to try to launch a range of products using the Orient Express name, including luggage and also mattresses. That could be a bit of an interesting one. This is all a prelude to a relaunch of the train service between Paris and Vienna, expected to be back on the rails in about 5 years.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. Thank you so much, Stephen. It's good news for Agatha Christie fans
Exactly.
too. All right, time now for our international press review. We've got William Hildebrandt with us here on the set. No,